Good afternoon everyone and welcome to today's webinar. For those who don't recognise my voice, it's Mike that's going to be going through today's session, and we do have Kelly who's going to be on the live chat for any questions you may have during the webinar. So what we're going to be covering today is the brand new automated catalogue routine. So for some of our long-standing customers, you may have seen over the past couple of years and months we've made some improvements to the way this process works to make it a lot cleaner, a lot easier for you to manage your catalogues and keep your system up to date. The final step of this was to actually automate the import. So rather than you having a file sent to you via our data team and you import it through the EDC, you actually import it directly through Prima. So there's a few different options and a few changes that have been made. So the first thing first is you want to make sure that within your admin your users set up, or you have a number of users set up to actually import the catalogues. So within the user section, if we just go into say any user, use mine for the time being, there's an option here to allow user to import publications. So you can allow or sort of disallow specific users within the admin the ability to import the publications. So that's just something to be mindful of to ensure that you can actually do this. So make sure that's ticked. It should be. Then basically the process that you've got is when you're using Prima, you may have noticed that there's a brand new sort of speech bubble in the bottom right hand corner here. It will glow orange as it is here. And then when you first log in, you'll be met with sort of this notification that as of sort of that date, there's new publications to be applied. So in that case, when you've got new publications, you will find sort of the best time to import them. It's still sort of in the morning or at the weekend, not during sort of your busy hours to lock down your system. It's sort of whenever you want it to run. You would then click that notification bar and you would be loaded with this apply the imported publications page, and basically from here you will be prompted to select the files that you've got an update for and then process and apply them into your system. So you would select the ones that you're looking to import, and basically from here what you can do is say, okay, I know for example Valen Spices I've got EDI terms for, so they'll be updated automatically, but for say Absolute and BCD, you may want to contact them suppliers if they're not EDI and get a terms file sorted. So when you actually do import it, you've got something to update your costs straight away, so your data in the system isn't out for quite a while. So you can you can select which ones by just clicking the tick box. So if we didn't want to update the Absolute, then we would just untick that and it wouldn't be updated at this point. You can then go back at a later date and import it that way. So once you've sort of selected the ones, it will give you a bit of information down here of what you can do and the sort of processes that may be running in the background. So the first one here is the automatic discount band mapping. So within your system, within the administration again, under general administration, and down at the very bottom we have catalogue mappings. And what this basically does, it will, if you're not aware, you're not already got it set up, it will go through sort of the manufacturers that have and the catalogues and suppliers that have the information for the bandings and apply them based on what you set up in here. So for example with this VAR one, the system will automatically identify that the supplier is being updated for this specific supplier. For any items that have the manufacturer info for of A, it'll be assigned to this destination pricing band. And you can set that up for all. So rather than you have to go into the publication grid manager and update it previously, you can use this to do it manually, to do it automatically, on the import. The other option that you've got within here is the RSP and selling price update. So again, this is another auto update. So this will basically bring in your RSP and selling prices from the catalogues and update them in the stock products based on your priority. Again, this is something you can have run automatically, or you can leave it for yourself to run manually, but the automatic will be a lot easier. So within system keys, there's pricing system keys, and then you've got the option at the very top for after catalogue import, automatically update RSP selling prices using the publication priority, ignoring any auto lift. So you can enable and disable that depending on whether you want it to run automatically or if you want to run it yourself. I would advise having that set to be yes. So that's what happens automatically as well. So that will as soon as we hit apply on this, it will run through, it will import the new products, remove the suppliers for any items that have been discontinued, and then it will go through and update the discount bands and pricing, etc. So once you're happy, you would just hit that apply button. It would then run through the system and update. Now, I'm not going to do that just at the moment because it may take a couple of minutes and I don't want to lock the system down. But when you do hit apply, don't worry if it starts saying that your system's not responding. That's perfectly normal for this type of update because it's running through quite a lot, sort of a couple of thousand products updating. So don't worry, leave it to run. You can go and sort of do another job, and it'll just update, and once it's finished, it'll return back to normal. So once that's all done, once the automatic updates have been done, there's something that we do suggest here, which is a bit of an optional import and basically an optional update. Basically, within the publications grid manager, there's an option in here under the change tab to update linked product code, description, image and pack size. So basically, if there's been any changes to descriptions, images within the catalogue, you can basically pull that information through to the stock product. So if there's been any updated images, you can pull it through and make sure that your website, your web store, and all your reports, the quotes, etc. are all up to date. So that's something that we do advise. So you would come in here, you would search and say your preferred supplier. So it could be Vow or Spices, whoever. Search for all the products using the search button. And then within the change tab, you would then run that update, and that will make sure that you've got the latest data within your stock products to be used throughout the system. So that's just a bit of an optional update, but it is recommended. So if you want to run through that, you can do. Now, again, with the auto updates, as you may be taking on new suppliers, we're looking to get new suppliers in with the system of catalogues. The assigning of suppliers will still work in the same way. So there's a couple of catalogues in here that don't have a supplier. So if we were looking to update the absolute product file with a supplier, we would come into this section, we would type in the supplier, and then you would have to contact our data department to reload that file again, and it'll pop up as the orange sort of notification boxes in the bottom right hand corner that you've got a new file to import, and you would import it that way. So that's how you'd update the suppliers for the time being. The final option that you would run through, that you would need to do for this process, would be applying a terms file. So it still works in the exact same way. You would, if for your electronic suppliers, have them updated via EDI, you would just have to go in and check. But for your manual files, you would, well, for the files that aren't EDI, you would have to update them sort of manually. Kelly will put a link to how you can apply and update and create a terms file in the chat, so there'll be a link in there for you to have a look through on the help site, which will give you the template as well. So that's that for any of your manual suppliers to update the cost prices. So just give you a bit of a recap what we've run through. To import the new catalogues, it's done through the notifications button in the bottom right hand corner here, and when you have catalogues to import, it will sort of glow orange as this one is here, and that's how you would now apply the files. If you do use mailers from the suppliers and packed files, they will still come through from our data department and be imported the existing way. So that'll be imported through the imports folder on the EDC. So this is purely just for your catalogues, not for mailers. Mailers will still work in the same way. But apart from that, that's all we've got to cover today. So if you do have any questions, just let myself or Kelly know on the live chat, and we're more than happy to answer. And we will be sticking around for a while now to go through any questions you do have. But apart from that, if you want any further training on the automated process or managing terms files and housekeeping in your system, just contact the customer service department, and we're more than happy to discuss some training options and packages with you. But apart from that, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week.